So just taking some pieces of scrap cardboard, I cut out some templates, one for the 6-cell and one for the 5-cell module. So that lines up these guys right here. Now we'll be able to place this throughout the car when we lay out our modules. And so with the fuel system out of the car, that was pretty much the last of the removal process. So I've begun to actually start building now, which is always exciting momentum change here. So we, instead of demoing, now we're actually building stuff. So I've already got 2 modules here with 6 cells each, and they're already bolted in. Use Loctite on the connections because the only way we can get to this is with the whole rear subframe out. So we want to make sure that these are in solid, good and tight. And we have a little bar that I fabricated custom going across there. We should still have pretty easy access when we have to make our final connections to our pack above. But this is just part of our rear pack here. As you can see, it doesn't take up too much space. We actually got quite a bit more extra space, but not enough space to put more cells. So I think this is going to be the best solution here without customizing our modules or anything. We want to use our existing modules when possible. So I've already got this stuff patched up right here. And then we'll be taking our cord here. Probably shorten up the cord a little bit, and this is our existing old fuel cap position. We'll be able to stick our plug in here, just modified, it almost fits stock. Just have to enlarge it a little bit. I think just grind off a little on the top and off the bottom there, and I think we'll have a nice fit right there. So that's going to be good. And we'll run our cord right through this hole here into the back. And that's this hole right here, so we'll bring it in there. The other holes don't really work, so I taped them off. And so they were all sealed up and everything. And this is a nice access hatch, but won't be necessary very much. Once we get our wiring in, we won't need it. So then we'll put this cap in. We'll probably bring our wires in down below here, and then have a bus bar system right here. So our charger wires will come in, our main wire, and then our pack wires will all kind of converge right here. And we're going to put 3 more modules of 5 cells each, and that's going to become up to about 6 inches or so. So it's still going to be down below this peak part right here. So then I think what we'll do is we'll put our chargers above. They kind of look like amplifiers, the chargers that I bought. I bought 2 of them, and so they're faster in parallel than having just one. So it's kind of stacked kind of chargers. So I think that would look really cool. They'll look like amplifiers to the untrained eye, so it would look kind of like someone has a stereo system, when in fact it's a charging system. And one of the nice benefits will be when you're charging, they produce a little bit of heat, so they'll actually heat the cabin, which would be really cool to have in the wintertime. So you get some nice residual heat from the charging process, so that would be nice to have. But first, we got to get this guy in. Alright, so we got the rear subframe in. Went in relatively smoothly. I was kind of surprised. And as you can see here, no clearance issues whatsoever. Our pack has plenty of clearance. It's not really in the Airstream or anything either. Although we might want to put some plastic or something on there just to keep the dust out. But we should be able to reach in here and grab our connections on either side. We don't need to get to the middle one, it's already done. That will be our positive wire that will connect to the rest of the pack up above here. We'll bring that in somewhere and make our connections up there. I think the only thing we have to do is bleed the brakes, but otherwise it's totally tight, ready to go. Shouldn't have to align anything. Everything was already aligned as all the bolts went back in the way they were before. So I think the next thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and so here's our J1772 plug installed. As you can see, I freshened up the paint a little bit here, cleaned it up, came out real nice, I think. This is what it looks like on the inside. All pretty nice and tidy here. Also took the time to go ahead and tidy up the whole trunk area, as since we're back here, may as well get that done. So now, in fact, actually, all I have to do now is put our bumper and our tail lights back on, and this whole back end of the car is 100% done. Also, I took the time, since this was apart, kind of lubricated the release here. It was a little bit sticky, so where everything's apart makes it real nice and easy to get that done. You can see here it pops up nicely now. Before it was sticking, so yep, very nice. It's almost like a new car. So we're now back at the front of the car again here. So now we're going to go ahead and do a couple things today. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to fit our 12-volt battery. This is what I've selected here. It's Sheree, made in Japan, 27 amp hour battery, weighs 3 pounds and 12 ounces. So 3 3/4 pounds, super light. The existing battery, or the old battery, was 19 pounds, so it's quite a bit lighter. We're going to stick it right here. I think this is pretty close to where the original battery was. I think it was like that, but we're going to be able to tuck it back even further. Get it back in the corner there. Probably tidy up those wires first. And then this is what I've selected for our DC to DC converter. So it's a 500 watt, kind of a smaller unit, but that's all we're going to need for this particular car. Should suffice as far as powering up the 12 volt, keeping it charged up. And it's going to fit real nicely right here, I think. So this is about where we're going to put it. So that's what we're going to do next. But before we do that, we need to tidy up this area. As you can see, it looks pretty nasty, a lot of dirt and stuff. This will all, once we get this all cleaned up and everything, it's gonna remain nice and tidy, because there's not going to be any airflow coming through here very much. It's going to be pretty much sealed up. So we want to take the time now to go ahead and tidy all this up. Also, this is I'm very adamant about not messing with the electrical system, because so far I've not done anything other than take off some fuel injection stuff that was directly mounted on the engine. These two ports right here were going to stuff that was all on the engine. Otherwise, I've done nothing to the electrical system. So I'm leaving it intact. I have experience because I've done another car, or I have another project car that I started before this one, and I did completely opposite. I got a little bit carried away, took too much stuff out, and having issues with that. So with this one, I do not want to touch anything. I want to leave it all alone, I think. And also, this particular car has a nice, clean, tidy electrical system. So there's not a bunch of weirdness going on. The other car that I started, like for example, had relays that were like scattered all over the place, and it just looked really ugly. And I didn't like. I knew that half the relays were not necessary, but I wasn't 100% certain which ones to take out. So I started taking out ones that I assumed were the ones I wanted to, and it turns out that I don't know if I was 100% accurate on that. So with this one, they're all tidy, so they're all nice and neat. So I don't really, and it's not going to save that much weight to take it off, so why bother? So, but I will systematically, when I do see something that's absolutely 100% certain, like for example, the fuel pump lines in the back of the car, I did take those out. But I didn't take, I only cut it off at where the fuel pump is at. Now, so here's another good example. This is the starter and the alternator connection. So conveniently, that's all located right here at the end of the circuit. So we can, obviously we can clearly cut that off, like right here if we wanted to. We know that's going nowhere. But so let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll see where that goes back to. We might be able to trace some of the wire back, get rid of some of it now. But the thing is like I said before, it's like you don't want to spend too much time on this, because it's already all nice and neat right now. So to take all this apart, put it back together again, it's going to take a lot of time to save, like 3 pounds or something. So we really don't want to piss around and waste a bunch of time on that. So it's not a good idea. But if there's something obvious like this, we could probably do. So let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll go ahead and tidy this whole area up, clean all this stuff out, start sealing some of these holes up and stuff like that. And another little update here. Heater core, originally I was going to take it out, but I don't think that's such a great idea, because we are going to have a chill plate for our controller, and it's going to be right there in front of the motor, which is going to be behind it. So I'm kind of thinking, well, we're going to need some sort of cooling system, we're going to need some sort of heating system, so why not just take that chill plate, that heat that's going to be definitely going to be produced off of that, and why not just use it to heat the interior of the car? I mean, it seems to make sense. Got some items installed now. We got our 12-volt battery installed right here. Weighs under 4 pounds with everything. Got it on some padding and some tie wraps, cable ties. And then right next to it, conveniently, we have our DC to DC converter, and these wires will go, don't have them wired in obviously yet, but they will be going in right here. The 12 volts will be going there, and then our 96 will be going back down here, back down to our main pack. So it should be a nice convenient location, custom fabricated little bracket there. This one only weighs 3 pounds, so total is about under 7 pounds for all of that right there. So that's very good, better than expected, a little bit lighter than expected. And other things I've done is I verified there's only one wire that we needed to keep here. I didn't mention, we tore out a bunch of the wiring here, so as you can see here, cleared off a bunch of that junk. I actually traced the wires back into the car, took out all the this crap right here. So this is all gas stuff, so just various wiring, the control module for the fuel injection system, and then some big, we had starter cable. That was a big fat wire. So all that was about 4 pounds right there. So that's some more weight out. Although it took a little bit of time to do that, but it tidies up our engine, our former engine compartment here, now battery compartment basically. Just had to keep one connector here. This is what I was getting at here. So this was the alternator circuit right here. Goes back to a bus bar here, and then there's another line that goes back to the 12 volt. And so the bus bar with the relays, the main fuses. So I did notice that when I was taking this apart, that was the only wire that seemed to go somewhere else. It went back this way. So actually that was a very important wire to keep. That actually is the instrument panel. And so everything is basically, I think we've taken about as much weight out as we can now. Even the wiring. And so I wasn't really going to do all that, but it seemed to make sense. Once you get started, you kind of have to keep going with it. So for example, you know, we have our lights and everything. And let me turn on that key here. So we have most of our stuff now. So like, you know, turn signals work well. The lights on in the front, so that's the only reason why they're not working. But so everything seems to be working good here. Windshield wipers work and all that. Horn works. And so, yeah, looking good. Whoop, intermittent. Off. So everything seems to be working pretty good here. So I'm very happy with this. We didn't lose anything. Rear defroster was working too. Basically everything. So that's very good. And I think I mentioned before that we are going to be keeping the heater core. I was originally going to take it out, put in a electric one instead, but it seems pretty obvious to me, since we're going to be using a chill plate with the motor, which is going to be right there. The chill plate and controller inverter will be in front here, behind the batteries. And then, so it'd be really convenient to just, since it's going to be water cooled, why not just have it go into the, because there is going to be heat in a little bit. And so why not just utilize that heat and heat the cabin? Seems like a logical thing to do. And it would still operate just as it does now. So the flapper control on the inside there, just like any car that does not have an electronic control, has a mechanical, which is what this is right here. It's just, there's a cable in there, and when you move that, it just, that flapper that opens and shuts the valve that for the heat coming in, or from the hot coolant would be coming in. So that's looking really cool, really positive. Also, another thing I've done is I've sealed off some of these areas right here that we know we're not going to need those holes. Got plenty of other holes for wiring. There should be plenty of room down here, for example, that I could bring in everything in. And once I bring in whatever, any other wires I need to bring in, it shouldn't be too much at this point. Our brake booster, electric brake booster, is going to be going right next to the brake system here. So we'll probably have a couple wires that have to go in for that. We'll have control wires for some of these other things. The enable wire for this thing, the DC to DC controller, is going to have to be brought in somewhere. So we might be able to bring it in over here. Although that one I haven't even touched at all, because there's nothing to touch that's worthwhile taking that apart. So maybe we can wrap it around along with our alternator cable, former alternator cable here, power supply, which goes back to there. So yeah, looking pretty good. So now we're in the back area again. Going to go ahead and finish up putting in our modules to make our 96 volt pack in the back. That's what I've done here is I've already got some plywood, cabinet grade. Actually recycled that actually, so it's nice to not have to buy anything. And I've already got some Got this one centered here, got it bolted down. And I already got the hose drilled for the other ones. I basically put this in as a unit, about 28 pounds, so not too difficult to get in there. And what we'll do is we'll, after we get it in here, we'll screw it down with some screws right here at an angle. And it's friction, there's padding in the back here. I used some of this padding kind of stuff here to give a little bit more. Used it, some of it underneath and then some of it in the back to kind of give it still a little bit more, keep any kind of looseness from happening. Just keep it nice and tight. So let's go ahead and put in the other two modules. So we've custom fabricated some bars going across here. So there's existing stock and our batteries are in place. So all we really have to do is put these in, such as so. I was very careful to be touching it at the rubber insulator part. We'll go ahead and put the other one in. And these guys are ready to go. We just have to make the wire connections to the rest of the pack and then connect to our main cables to the front of the car. With the back 5 modules in place, we're going to start working on the front modules now. But I thought first I'd like to go over some of the equipment we're using, some of the wiring and such. Basically this is everything we're using right here. So we're using some 2.0 flex grip welding cable, 600 volt, made in the US. Top quality cabling here. And we're using, this stuff has about, I think it's about 22,000 strands of copper in it. So because it has so many tiny little strands there, you can do this kind of stuff. Because this is normally this is a really thick wire, and yet you can flex this, as you can see here. I mean, how easy it is to flex it. It's real easy to bend this stuff, which is amazing for something so thick. Weighs about half a pound per foot, costs about $5 a foot. And plenty of power for what plenty of cable for what we're doing. Actually, this is probably a little bit more than I need, but it's always better to have a little bit more. You don't want to have any heat resistance in the cabling. It's best to have a little bit more than not enough. And then what we're using to cut it with is this device here. This basically it's like a shear. It's designed specifically for this. Super sharp. Yeah, it's almost like a lopper, but it's specifically for this cabling. Very easy to use. You get super clean cuts when you use it. And then for our crimping, we're using this right here. This is a 16-ton hydraulic crimper. And what you get is you get this right here. You get 6 sides, hexagonal kind of pattern. And what's nice about it is that it's a die right here. So when these dies, you just keep pumping this thing until those dies touch, and then you get a nice tight consistent seal every time. So you get nice super consistent connections, which is what we want. And then to finish it, we got heat shrink here. This is a 3-to-1 heat shrink. It has glue inside of it as well. So basically when you stick it on here, as you can do, obviously we're going to cut that first, but it easily gets on there, and then you just basically shrink 3-to-1. So if you imagine, that's going to shrink really super tight, and since it has glue on it, it's going to seal that connection real nice. So and then as far as the connectors, obviously you want to pick the right size. This is 2.0. Now we're using a 1/4-inch hole here, and I bought a bunch of them, all 1/4-inch, because for this job, because our batteries are all 1/4-inch connections, goes in nice and tight. So we're already good right here. And if you need to, I suspect when we do when the motor comes in, I think we're going to have bigger connectors, but it's always better to have a smaller hole than a big hole, I believe, because you can always enlarge the hole. It's real easy to enlarge the hole, but it's not so easy to make it, well, it's impossible to make a big hole small, but it's easy to make a small hole big. So if you're going to buy a bunch of them, I figure you'd be safe with the small one. So that's what I did with this one. I just got one size only. I guess we'll see as we go. Here's what the connector looks like with the heat shrink on. As you can see, there's a nice bead of glue around the outer edge there. You can kind of see it. It kind of has a nice bead on both ends there, so it seals that thing up nice and tight. This is the other side right here. So that's how it's done. We're essentially done here in the back as far as wiring. We've got everything ready to all we have to do is make our final connections here. This is how we're going to connect our backpack to the front packs. And then we'll also, when we put our chargers in, they're going to be right above here. We're going to have probably 2 of them in parallel. They sort of look like amplifiers, so they look kind of cool. So I think what I'll do is I'll probably put black carpeting over all this so you don't see it, and then I'll have the chargers on top so they look like amplifiers, and they'll be like twins, so it'll be like, you know, symmetrical. So I think that would look really cool. And we'll tap into our system here, positive on this side, negative on that side. So this is basically ready to go. Like I said, all I have to do is make the final connections. Now, one thing that was kind of interesting here is you might notice is I've used some of the existed. Obviously, I've used the bar system here. We used a lot of the bar that came with the car, the donor car, and then also I was able to use some of the bar. This particular piece just happened to work out perfectly for what I was doing. I only had to cut off a little bit at the end there. So this very, very much factory-looking piece here is actually right off the 500E. So I was able to reuse that. So I try to use the bar as much as I can because it does save cost. Also, it's just like, you know, you already got it, so why not use it? And so this is what it looks like down here. This is all final done. You can see our main wires go down into the transmission tunnel, which run underneath the car there. It's going to be right above where the motor's going to be in the drive shaft. So I had these temporarily braced right here, but they're just coming up to the front now. So this is what connects our front packs to the back pack.